What is up, Ewu crew? Today we will be covering our top 5 most sinister examples of why you should never travel alone. The following tourist horror stories will make you rethink your upcoming solo adventures. Starting at the bottom of our list is a story that begins in Costa Rica in November of 2018. With Venezuelan-American Instagram model and social media influencer Carla Stefaniak. In celebration of her 36th birthday, Carla and her sister April Burton planned the perfect Costa Rican vacation. The two scheduled sightseeing expeditions, made reservations for delicious dinners, planned to enjoy cocktails by the beach, and were raring to go and have a fun time. In general, their vacation went well. However, a day before their trip was over, April needed to head back to Miami, where the two sisters lived. Carla's flight was not departing until the following afternoon, so she opted to stay the night in Costa Rica by herself. This seemingly minute decision would change the course of her life forever. After April left for Florida, Carla decided that there were still a few things left for her to see in Costa Rica. Being an Instagram model and social media influencer, a lot of her career focused on getting the best photos out of a vacation. With her sister's help throughout their trip, Carla had been able to get some great pictures that ended up on her Instagram page. After an unforgettable day of solo exploration, Carla returned to the Airbnb that she had been staying in with her sister. However, when she arrived at the rental home, she realized that none of the light switches in the hallway were working. After trying everything to turn the lights on, she concluded that the power must have gone out. With the little battery she had remaining on her cell phone, Carla managed to send a text to her sister, letting her know that the power was out on the property and that she felt a little uneasy about it. Throughout their stay, Carla and April had often remarked that the area around their Airbnb did not seem the safest, but that it was good enough for the price. Little did either of the sisters know that that would be the last text message Carla would ever send. November 28, 2018 was the last time anyone ever heard from Carla Stefaniak. Well, except for one person, that is. On December 3rd, 2018, just days after her family had lost contact with her and she missed her flight back to Miami, Carla's remains were found. Tracker dogs had discovered her remains wrapped in plastic and half hidden on a sloping path near the Airbnb property. It did not take long for local law enforcement to find the monster behind Carla's demise. After all, her remains had been dumped just 200 feet from the rental property. Investigators quickly learned of a man who had direct access to the Airbnb unit that Carla was renting. Bismarck Espinoza Martinez, a local security guard, became the first and only suspect in Carla Stefaniak's murder. It is assumed that Martinez attempted to assault Carla in a certain way we cannot say on YouTube. During the struggle, Carla tried to fight back, leaving scratch marks and bruises on Martinez's arms. It is believed that during this altercation, Martinez fatally wounded Carla for not doing exactly what he wanted. Martinez then disposed of Carla's remains on a remote part of the grounds where she was later discovered. After committing such a heinous crime, it is rumored that Martinez called his wife and told her what he had done. Not long after hearing his confession, his wife called the police. Martinez's DNA was found at the scene of the crime, and he was arrested for the murder of Carla Stefaniak shortly after. Bismarck Espinoza Martinez was later charged with the Costa Rican equivalent of second-degree murder because there was not enough substantial evidence to prove that the murder was premeditated. He was sentenced to only 16 years in prison. The next story we have for you today, coming in at number 4 on our list, is that of Catherine Kate Chappell. If that name sounds familiar to you, it might be because she was a senior visual effects editor who worked on various popular films and television shows, most notably HBO's Game of Thrones. As evidenced by her work, Kate loved film and had a variety of other passions and interests. One of these passions was wildlife conservation. In June of 2015, Kate went on a trip to Johannesburg in South Africa to advocate for wildlife conservation and raise funds for the Wildlife Act. The Wildlife Act is a conservation charity and one of the many endeavors that Kate was devoted to in her spare time. While in Johannesburg, Kate decided to visit Johannesburg's Lion Park to get up close and personal with the animals she so desperately wanted to protect and save. While at the park on the afternoon of June 1st, Kate was given the opportunity to ride through the reserve in an SUV. This was a common practice for the Lion Park, in which a driver who worked on the premises operated a vehicle containing tourists. The Lion Park had only one firm rule: the car windows had to remain up for the duration of the drive. When the SUV containing an excited and eager Kate Chappell began driving through the park, everything was normal. After driving for a while, Kate's SUV briefly stopped to better look at a pride of lions. A tourist in the car, just behind Kate's, watched in awe as a pair of lions approached Kate's vehicle. The male lion brushed up against the side of the SUV like a house cat between its owner's legs. For a moment, the lioness by his side propped herself up against the vehicle, curious to get a better look inside. Usually, the saying goes that curiosity killed the cat. Unfortunately for Kate, the opposite was true in this case. The driver of the SUV failed to realize that at some point during the drive, Kate had rolled down her window to snap the best pictures possible. Instead of rolling the window back up, she continued to reach her arms and cell phone out of the vehicle to take more photos. In one swift movement, the ever-curious lioness lunged through the open window of the SUV. Kate had no time to react as the lioness bit into her shoulder and then her neck, severely wounding her. The driver of the vehicle quickly began trying to fend off the lioness in an attempt to save Kate. When the lioness finally retreated from the vehicle, the driver tried to apply pressure to Kate's wounds to keep her alive. By the time more park employees and paramedics arrived on the scene, it was already too late for Kate. Kate Chappell lost her life in the passenger seat of the SUV before help could get to her. The lioness sauntered off. The third story that we have for you guys begins in Isla Colón, off the coast of Panama. In 2017, 23-year-old Catherine Johannet was just a young adult exploring the world. She had previously graduated from Columbia University with honors and worked her first teaching job abroad in Vietnam. Catherine loved learning, which is why, when she found herself with some free time over a winter holiday, she jumped at the opportunity to travel around Central America for the first time. Panama was somewhere Catherine had always wanted to visit, so she decided to plan a vacation there, chock full of educational experiences. She intended to explore Panama's various archipelagos and provinces and learn as much as possible about the country's culture. Towards the end of her trip, Catherine decided to venture away from her hostel on Isla Colón, the main island in the Bocas del Toro archipelago, and head over to the popular Bastimentos Island. She decided to make her visit to Bastimentos a simple day trip and informed the hostel staff on Isla Colón that she would be back by evening. She did this to ensure that her belongings would remain untouched and that the space she had been sleeping in would stay reserved for her. She packed up a few of her things and stuffed them into her trusty travel backpack. And then she was off on her latest adventure. Little did Catherine know it would turn out to be her last. Late in the evening on February 2nd, the same day Catherine set out, employees at the Isla Colon hostel realized that she had yet to return. By then, it was already getting darker and darker as the night rolled in. The staff knew immediately that something was seriously wrong. Catherine was a tourist who did not speak much Spanish, and it was her first time visiting Panama, let alone venturing out to Bastimentos. Right away, local law enforcement was informed of the tourist who had abruptly gone missing. Not even 3 days after Catherine had disappeared, a woman's remains were discovered along one of the beaches in Bastimentos. The woman had been suffocated, it seemed, with the very same pink bathing suit that she had been wearing. Local officials suspected right away that there had to be a connection to the female tourist reported missing just days before. When investigators arrived on the scene, they were shocked at the state of the remains. It was evident the woman had been brutally attacked by an assailant while walking along an isolated, wooded trail. She had probably been alone and did not even know she was being followed until it was too late. It was later discovered that the killer of Catherine Johannet was a 17-year-old boy native to the Panamanian island. The boy, whose name had remained anonymous on account of his status as a minor at the time of the crime, was quickly located and arrested shortly after the incident. At his trial, the boy was convicted of charges that include robbery and murder. Since he was not yet an adult, he was tried as a minor and sentenced to only 12 years in prison. Continuing with our countdown, number 2 on our list of eerie stories today is the mysterious case of Elise Dallamagna. The odd chain of events leading up to Elise's demise and the discovery of her remains is what makes this case so chilling. Elise Dallamagna was a Belgian woman who had been traveling around Asia for a little over 2 years. During this time, she had been staying on and off at a yoga and tantra retreat on the full moon party island of Koh Phangan in Thailand. Feeling as though her life had come to a standstill, Elise decided to mix things up and return to her native Belgium. On April 17, 2017, Elise talked to her mother on the phone and relayed her feelings, letting her know that she would soon be returning to her hometown. On April 19th, just days after speaking to her mother, Elise left the island of Koh Phangan for the island of Koh Tao. Those following her case are unsure as to why she decided to detour to Koh Tao instead of taking a ferry directly to the mainland. But this is precisely what she did. Once she arrived, Elise checked in to the Triple B Hotel at Mayhat Bay and asked for the cheapest room. She only planned to stay at the hotel for a night or two before heading to the mainland to catch a flight home. However, when checking into the hotel, Elise exhibited some very odd behavior. She filled in her full name on the hotel paperwork and then, without reason, crossed out her last name and replaced it with a fake one. When asked for identification by hotel management, Elise refused to provide her passport details. She told them that she would get the information to them later. Not long after checking into her hut, Elise booked a ferry ticket to Chumphon Province on the mainland, scheduled to leave the following morning. But as she settled into her room at the Triple B Hotel, something peculiar happened. A fire broke out among several hotel rooms, including Elise's. In fact, officials were suspicious that Elise had started the fire herself, or that it had originated in her room. Regardless, she was forced to flee from the hotel as 3 different huts began to burn down. After the fire, Elise continued 2.5 kilometers through the jungle to Tanote Bay and checked into a room at the Poseidon Resort. There, she booked another ticket to Bangkok that was scheduled to leave on April 24th. Looking back at her journey, it is clear to see that she was anxious to leave. The following morning, when the ferry from Mayhat Bay arrived in Chumphon, Elise was nowhere to be found. All that was discovered on the ferry was her unattended luggage. No one had any idea what had happened to Elise for days, nor did they know where she had ended up. Her unattended suitcases were enough cause for alarm, though, that search parties had been sent out to look for her, but they consistently returned with no valuable information. And then there was a strange discovery made in the jungle of Koh Tao. The locals living near Tanote Bay, where Elise had been staying, began to see a monitor lizard acting strangely. The lizard repeatedly wandered back and forth from a remote part of the jungle over the course of the day. This was odd because it meant that the lizard was feeding on something, but that something was too large for him to finish in one sitting. Curious as to what the lizard had preyed on that would last him so long, the locals decided to head into the jungle. When they came to a clearing, they were shocked to find the remains of Elise Dallamagne hanging from a tree. When the discovery was reported to the police, local law enforcement immediately ruled that Elise had taken her own life, with hardly any questions asked. Though that is what appears to have happened, the ruling was deemed suspicious because Elise was the seventh foreigner to meet their end under mysterious circumstances on Koh Tao in the past 3 years. Koh Tao holds the nickname Death Island because of the various tourists who have lost their lives throughout the jungle. According to local law enforcement, the victims were ruled to have taken their own lives or simply been unlucky in almost every case. In some cases, the victims appeared to have attempted to end their lives under similar circumstances, but they suspiciously had their hands tied behind their backs. These incidents, including the mysterious demise of Elise Dallamagne, were never fully investigated and have never been considered anything more sinister by the local police. Finally, number 1 on our list is the case of Azusa Shita Ino in Kalalau Valley, Hawaii. Shita, a 31-year-old woman visiting Kauai from her hometown of Fukuoka Prefecture, Japan, was enjoying her vacation when things took a turn for the worse. Kauai is a notoriously beautiful place to visit and a frequent tourist destination for those hoping to get away on a tropical vacation. That was exactly what Shita had in mind when she arrived on the island. Immediately, she began taking in the sights and adventuring on the local trails. After exploring for a while, Shita began frequenting one trail in particular, the Kalalau Trail. While on this solo vacation, Shita met a man named Justin Wynn Klein. Justin had just moved to Hawaii from Oregon for reasons he would not disclose to Shita, but she did not seem to mind. Justin was handsome and charming, so a few missing details here and there did not bother Shita. She let her attraction to him get the best of her. After all, she was on vacation in a beautiful place with a good-looking man who wanted to sweep her off her feet. And sweep her off her feet he did. On the afternoon of December 16th, 2012, Shita and Justin went for a hike along the Kalalau Trail, as it was Shita's favorite. The scenery was perfect for a vacation that had turned into something straight out of a romantic film. Or so Shita thought. When the two hikers reached one of the peaks along the trail, they stopped to look out at the beautiful horizon. Suddenly, Justin seized Shita by the arms. At first, Shita thought he was being playful and trying to fake scare her. And then, she was properly scared. Justin inched her closer and closer to the cliff's edge, holding her out away from him so that she could not fight back. It would not have mattered much anyway if she had. Justin was far larger and stronger than she was. In a split second, Justin suddenly let Shita go. She fell 15 feet down into the valley below, a fall that Justin had anticipated would end her life. But that was not the case. Miraculously, Shida managed to survive. She was rescued in critical condition and spent time in the hospital before recovering and returning home to Japan. Local police began a manhunt that lasted 4 months until Justin turned himself in as a fugitive. Once the police arrested him, they investigated his background and discovered that he had already been on probation for various crimes in Oregon before he came to Hawaii. Shida, as it turned out, had narrowly avoided becoming Justin's first murder victim. In March of the following year, Justin pleaded guilty to a lesser charge than attempted murder to avoid trial. As a result, he only had to serve 5 years in prison before walking free. We urge you to use these cases as examples of times when it would have made all the difference to these victims if they had had someone accompanying them on their adventures. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. A playlist is going to pop up right now with more videos you'll love. See you guys next time.